Hi, this is Stephen Mead, lifelong entrepreneur, business owner, and global speaker. Over the years, I've read hundreds of books and spent thousands of hours developing what I call the BullsEye belief system. And I've used that system to develop my own companies, as well as help others learn to be specific, targeted, and focused to get exactly what they want in life. Again, I'm Stephen Mead, and this is the BullsEye Guy podcast. Stephen Mead again, back with another BullsEye Belief podcast, coming to you from the amazing Groove radio station and the Groove Studios in downtown LA. I actually just found out, this is a little conversational, just found out there's a cool event coming up September 1st.
Yeah, that's right.
Look,
absolutely.
Look at that. Eagle can come on. He has a button. I didn't know that. All right, tell us about it real quick.
It's the Groove Radio 25-year celebration. It's going to be a live broadcast from the Light Museum in downtown Los Angeles. It's on the 11th floor. Amazing light installation, amazing sound system, and basically 10 of your favorite DJs all going back-to-back half-hour sets.
And I listen to country, so I apologize, but who are some of the DJs for the DJ fan base out there that I might have? Let's see if they recognize anybody.
Well, that would be Infected Mushroom, Richard Vishen, Christopher Lawrence, A.C. Slater, myself, and a bunch of other DJs. We have a couple of girls. Jess is going to be there, and Reed Speed is going to be there. So, yeah, it's going to be a great group of people.
Very nice. And showing my age, wasn't A.C. Slater the name on some...
Yeah, that's correct. Maybe it was one of your favorite TV shows, Saved by the Bell.
There we go. I barely remember it. I'm not going to. I'll at least be that old. All right, real quick. How can anybody find it online?
GrooveRadio.com.
GrooveRadio.com. All right, perfect. Thanks for jumping in, Eagle. I just
wanted
to get that
for the
out
opportunity.
There. Always. So, what we're going to do today, I'm actually going to again. I reference stuff. Anybody that's been following this, if you haven't, love for you to follow along with the iTunes podcasts and here at Groove Radio. But when I started out, one of the episodes I did early on was the 10 steps in what I call my BullsEye belief system. And I consistently reference those through different podcasts. I'm going to reference them continually through this because, again, it's a lot of information. For those of you that haven't heard it before, where did this come from? Again, when I was 22, some of this I just learned I was wired a certain way. For business, my mind just works a certain way. I went to school for chemistry to be a doctor, learned I can't stand blood. Tough to be a doctor. I don't like being set in a room. Tough to be a doctor. And actually, the bottom line is I suck at science. Math, I'm okay at. Science, I'm really bad at. Business, I'm super good at it. People are just wired differently, and I sort of learned that early on. But when I was 22, again, I went into financial services, and over the course of about 6.5 years, I read probably 357 books. And it sounds like a lot, but again, it was a book a week. So as a sales trainer, that was actually my goal. I had to teach people to go sell, follow me on this, life insurance, mutual funds, and mortgages. But we were primarily insurance salespeople selling life insurance on full commission at night to your friends. How many of you want to sign up to come work with me on that deal? Probably not many. But over the course of 6.5 years, I probably recruited and trained 8,000 people. Most of them didn't make it. Again, we were brainwashed. I don't want to call this particular sales training company side a cult, but it was cultish. And I actually loved it because I'd come out of sports, and this was very super competitive, and you learned a lot of things about hierarchy of needs and recognition, and we had ways set up where we would kill to win. Not kill, again, have to be so literal today's world. We would work very, very hard to win a t-shirt. Like the recognition of winning a t-shirt was really fascinating. And so over the course of time, all of these books, I started dissecting and coalescing them down into different steps and sequences and techniques. And those were the 10 steps I did. It might be episode 2 or 3 if I remember correctly, but it's basically the 10 steps of the BullsEye belief system. But each of those steps have a huge number of components and things built into them. And I'm going to spend a lot of time today on step 3. And step 3 is really the crux of what I call the BullsEye belief system. So this podcast, this episode is really going to be about how do you use this particular sequence I've developed, this system, this technique, and implement it into your business or your life? Now, again, a lot of the things I do can be used personally. I may talk about how to use this system, quote, personally, but it's mostly going to be around business applications. And what I mean by that is before I start in the actual BullsEye system, I'm going to go back to the insurance side, because I think the insurance side, you'll see where some of this started. You'll see sort of the creation and genesis and these little nuggets of what I learned in different books and how they all kind of got pieced together. All right. And for those of you just listening on the podcast, we also, thanks to the team here at Groove Radio, we also are on YouTube. And so any of you that happen to want to watch on YouTube, you will see me flailing around. I'm Italian, and actually I have a little bit of a tan. I sat outside reading and been playing soccer. So I joke that I'm Italian enough to get a tan but not have an attitude. So the Scandinavian in me burns one day and I tan the next. So if you happen to watch on YouTube, I look a little tan, a little scruffy. That's why. But the purpose is you'll see me flailing with my hands, but I'm also going to show some visuals on the YouTube channel today that obviously we can't do on radio. I'll do my best to describe them. We may try and put some of the graphics up. So back to this. How do you target your market, right? How do you identify what you want and what you need? And that was what I called step 3. Used to be called the tornado technique, right? But before I developed any of this, I started saying, if I'm trying to recruit you to come work for me, my job wasn't to get you to work for me. It was really to get you to come work with me and then set appointments with all your friends so we could go sell all your friends. No hiding it, no bones about it. My job in recruiting you was to help you set meetings with your 3 to 5 best friends so I could go sell them insurance. That was it, right? I could sugarcoat it and it was all of these things. No, I wanted to go sell insurance to your friends. But we couldn't set it up that way, right? You couldn't be direct. So you had to figure out what are these different triggers. And again, if you've watched the podcast, one of my, quote, 10 truths is people make decisions emotionally and defend them logically. But we also work on a premise of visuals. And what I mean by that is if you talk to somebody, our mind actually processes things in pictures, right? It's like speed reading. The reason reading is so difficult is we read each word at a time and we have to go back and build a story. Johnny what? Johnny went where? Johnny went to the store. Well, what did he go to the store for? Like our mind's constantly resetting to build a picture. If I just showed you a picture of Johnny going to the store, you instantly get it. So when you understand how our mind works in these visuals and these pictures. And so if you're trying to do networking, if you're trying to get referrals, if you're trying to get a new customer, whether it's sales or referrals, this is what the premise of this is primarily going to be about, this particular episode. And so within there's something we use called isolation of faces. And if I tell you, oh, I like the NFL, well, okay, that's very broad. If I tell you I do e-commerce, that's very broad. If I tell you I'm a doctor, that's very broad. I'm an attorney, right? These broad generalities of categories don't allow us to sequence in our mind. It doesn't build a picture. If I tell you I like the NFL and I like the Chicago Bears, now the Bears can pop in mind. And if you watch the NFL, you'll know what I'm talking about because now you know the Chicago Bears. And if I pick a particular person, you may recognize that person because you'll recognize the face or the number. And so the isolation of faces is how do you get somebody to understand what you need? And that's what I talk about is what you do is irrelevant. What you do is irrelevant. What you need is important. And I'm going to talk about it on the sales side. I'm going to tell you a technique I developed years ago, and that's where this whole new system came from. Is my job in financial services was to recruit an individual to come to work for me. And so we were taught, we were brainwashed. Again, it was a bit of a cult, but the brainwashing said everybody has an opportunity. Right? I'll give you a bunch of these one-offisms, these little quotes that, again, were just pelted into my head year after year. You can't measure the heart of a man or a woman. This isn't like sports. It's not like a 40-yard dash where everybody's timed. You can't measure how hard somebody's willing to work. You can't measure how hard somebody's willing to go that extra mile for their family. So we were taught to give everybody an opportunity because you couldn't measure who was going to step up. And I understood that, but to me, that was too broad. It was too general. And again, I started saying, how can I isolate down? And what I started asking myself is, what are the primary characteristics of the people that are infinitely more successful? Right? So it's what I call preferences. I have preferences, but I don't discriminate. If somebody's interested, we would have given them an opportunity. But my preference was, how could I come up with the characteristics of somebody that would have a higher likelihood of success in coming to work with me? And I started realizing there were certain characteristics. And I developed a program, an acronym called STEAM, right? So again, think about this for a moment. I'm selling insurance. I'm trying to get referrals. If I asked any one of you, hey, who do you know that needs insurance? You're going to go, nobody. If I said, who do you know that needs life insurance? You're not even going to answer. You're going to turn and walk out the door. You're not referring insurance to your friends. Just life doesn't work that way. If I said, hey, who do you know that's in sales? Who's the first person that comes to mind that's in sales? Hopefully, and it may or may not work, but you may know a salesperson. You're like, oh, you should talk to Bob. Bob's like the best salesperson ever. And I realized salespeople are good in my industries because they're good and they like sales. And then I realized there's teachers. Teachers like teaching. And a lot of what we did in financial services, we believe this, and I still do to this day, is we taught people how to become financially independent. And again, one of my prior episodes, I did a lot on how to set financial goals and talked about dollar cost averaging. It was an educational component that in 30 or 45 minutes, I could change somebody's financial future by educating them. So teachers are really good. If I said, who's the most enthusiastic person you know? I'm picking characteristics. Enthusiastic. Who's the most ambitious? Who's the most money motivated? What I was trying to do is two things. One, come up with characteristics of people that were most successful in my industry of what I wanted and needed. And two, I was trying to isolate faces around those most ambitious people. And you, if you've been following me, you may or may not have realized what I did. I'm going to test Eagle. So sales teachers, enthusiastic, ambitious, and motivated. What does that spell?
STEAM?
That was my referral basis system. So I've never made a cold call in my life. I sold financial services and insurance. People are like, oh, did you do cold calling? Absolutely not. What I did was I would steam people. They're like, well, what do you mean? I would steam them. Well, what does that mean? I would say, well, who do you know in sales? And they might look at me funny. And what we were taught to do, again, I'm trying to teach you, these are so many techniques. If I said, who do you know in sales? And I looked down on a piece of paper I happen to have in front of me with my pen. Again, negotiation technique. I taught this in one of the earlier podcasts. I keep referencing it, all stacks. Said, hey, who do you know in sales? And I looked down at my piece of paper and I put my pen there and I shut up. Somebody's going to give you a name. Well, I know Bob. Great. Yeah, Bob sounds amazing. Well, how about teachers? You know any teachers? Look down again. STEAM became my referral system, where if I'm talking to somebody, even if I just sold them insurance, I would say, hey, our job's not to sell insurance. What I really do for the company is I recruit people who are trying to get financially independent or people who might want to make a little money part-time, maybe to send their kid to college or buy a boat. So we found some characteristics that are really successful in our industry. So off the top of your head, who do you know that's in sales? And I would just ask and look down. I would leave appointments. These are insurance appointments with referrals, 3, 4, 5, 6, almost every time, of people that specifically met the characteristics of who I wanted to recruit. So what I started realizing is what I did was irrelevant. What I needed was important. I needed people that were in sales. I needed teachers. My job was to talk to them. And then the second clarification from their qualification, again, off of this sort of bullseye that I'll start talking about, was I had a specific target market. Now, again, I may be spending a lot of time on the insurance side, but this is the basis of a lot of other things we built. And anybody that's in insurance is going to love what I'm talking about. So the primary market for me was not anybody and everybody. Anybody goes, oh, well, everybody needs insurance. Bull. Maybe, but I didn't care. I wanted to increase my odds. I wanted to increase my percentages. And so I said, what are the characteristics of somebody that are more likely to buy what I want or what I need or what I have or what I can offer? And that became something very simple. God, all of this is beat in my head from years. I haven't done this in 20 years and it still just comes back. Characteristics, 25 to 45, married, employed, have kids, and own a home. If you put me in front of somebody that was 25 to 45, married, kids, own a home, and employed, 8 out of 10 times I could sell them an insurance product. That was my target market. So what I would do is I would get these names first. Oh, who do you know in sales? Who do you know teacher? Oh, Bob's in sales. Tell me about Bob. Oh, Bob's great. Oh, is he married? Does he have any kids? Does he own a home? Oh, that's perfect. Well, tell me about Terry. Terry's a teacher. Is Terry married? Oh, no, he's like 22, single. Okay, I'll mark. I would pre-qualify the people that fit into the criteria that I wanted. So to me, this was all about emotional value, isolation of faces, target, being specific. And what I learned over time is there's a sequential way to do this. It can be implemented and overlaid in anything, whether it's business, whether it's sales, whether it's finance, whether it's funding, whether it's a board member, whether it's trying to find a boyfriend or a girlfriend. There's a way to be specific. And it's funny, especially in LA. LA's an interesting one to me because people are like, oh, I don't want to be specific. I can help everybody. Good for you. Have at it. I'll take my 5 referrals in my target market against your anybody and everybody. Because the one guy that doesn't give me a referral, the next guy will give me 2, the next guy 3, the next guy 4. After 3 or 4 or 5 meetings, I'll have 10 or 15 people in my target market that are infinitely more qualified than, quote, everybody. And so that's what I started realizing. And for years, I called this the tornado technique. So I'm going to move over into why I called it a bullseye. Bullseye to me became a better visual. But the tornado technique, I taught this for years, and it was very, very cool. And that's what I'm going to, again, spend time on. The tornado. Any of you that have ever seen a tornado, and I do this, again, it's a trick question. I do this at college all the time. How many of you have seen a tornado? And if you do any public speaking, as you watch these podcasts, I'm going to give you infinite little tips all along the way. You couldn't see it if you're on radio, but anybody watching on video, what I just did when I asked that question is, how many of you have seen a tornado? And I raised my hand instinctively, like all of this is pre-programmed now. I raised my hand because the audience, even if they haven't seen a tornado, a lot of them will raise their hand just because you did. So now they're participating and don't know why. Oh, tornado. Yeah, I think their hand's sitting there raised up. So now I've got the audience engaged. And I would say, how many of you seen a tornado in person? Not many people have. What's the most powerful part of a tornado? Which is a trick question. And almost invariably somebody go, oh, the center, the eye. There is no eye of a tornado. There's an eye in a hurricane, and that's the calmest part. The tornado starts at the top and all the crap's flying around, and then at the bottom, the tip touches the bottom, and the tip is what causes all the power. I grew up in Oklahoma and Louisiana. I can throw all my different accents on, Texas. I've seen more tornadoes in the air flying around than I've ever seen hit the ground. And it's scary when they're circling, but they're not destructive. They are not destructive unless they come down in a funnel and touch the ground. So I use tornado a lot, but now I've switched it to bullseye. And a bullseye is, how do you go from the outside and target all the way in? And the crux and the whole premise of the bullseye belief system in this thing I developed, I'm going to actually try and do this while I'm looking down. I'm going to open my computer because I'm going to hold this up. But I developed something that you can use in almost anything, and I'm going to hold it up. This is how the bullseye belief system works for business, for work, for anything. Again, you guys can't see me looking down, so here. We don't like... I'm having an issue. Technology. You don't know this. They actually don't let me touch technology because I break everything. Here we go. I got it open. Bullseye belief system. At the top, what you do is irrelevant. I don't care what you do. I don't understand what you do. It doesn't make sense what you do. I will never figure out what you do. Now, that's not entirely true, but most of the time it's true. And we spend an inordinate amount of time trying to explain to people what we do. And I'm going to give you an example here. I'm going to give you one of our old companies called Ronastar. And I'm going to give it to you at the beginning of this sequence, and then I'm going to teach you the technique. Again, this is public speaking. Tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them what you told them. I'm about to tell you what I'm going to tell you is how this system works. So follow me for a minute if you're listening in. I have the following company, and if you and I met at a networking event or out, I'm all excited about my company. Here's what my company does, and I want you to figure out how to help me. Company's called RonaStar. We're an SAP and an ASS, a proprietary platform redeploying assets across an enterprise using an internal currency as an ERP initiative. So we're an EPS, but we're really not integrated. We're implemented across the enterprise through a change management or process reengineering. You guys can't see in the studio either. There's blank stares, but people look at you and go, oh, yeah, that's cool. Hey, sounds great. No, oh, you didn't get it. Let me explain it to you. What happens is we dive in more because we're trying to explain to people what we do. What we do is irrelevant. What I do is not relevant. What I need is important. So I need to move you from going, oh, what you do, that's kind of cool, to what I need. And here's the way it works. I'm going to put this up on screen for anybody that can see it, but I'm going to walk you through it anyway. These are all 5 steps, and we'll spend a little bit of time here. I'm screening in as close as I can get on one of the cameras. I'll hold it up. So first and foremost, here's your exercise. If you're doing sales, if you're doing marketing, if you're doing anything, top line, there is an emotional value of what you do. There's something emotional and cool about what you do that has nothing to do with what you do. It's just, what do you do that's cool? You need somebody to go, oh, that's cool, or appreciate it. Underneath there are specific industries. Again, this is very salesy, this is very networky, but that's the purpose of this particular episode. If I'm trying to do sales, there's industries I'm good in. Not that I can't be everything to everybody. It's like a radio station. I'm sitting here. Groove Radio's great at EDM. They're probably not playing country. I could be wrong, but they're probably not. They have a lane and an audience, and they know their audience. Could they play country if they wanted to? Sure. Not their lane, not their best audience. What's your best audience? What's your market? So what are the industries? And again, now what are my top 3 industries? Not 4 or 5 or 10. What are my 3? Within those industries, what are the primary companies I'm targeting? Again, now we're down into isolation of faces. I can name you a specific company. Within the company, what's the title of the person? And then what's the name of exactly who I want? So I'm going to use RonaStar. Then I'm going to use a couple different examples. Again, back in one of the prior episodes, this is step 3 of the 10. I'm just spending more time on it so you kind of understand what goes into these things. But close your eyes for a minute. Listen as I explain RonaStar and try and pay attention to kind of what your feelings are inside and what pictures start forming. And I need you to remember, if you will, you'll remember what I do and what I need completely differently. Here we go. Here's RonaStar. What is RonaStar, Stephen? We help companies, it's software. We help really, really big companies save a lot of money. Most companies are trying to save money. We help big companies save money. I primarily target industries like airlines, automotive, public schools, big industries that own a lot of stuff. The primary companies I'm going after right now, United Airlines, Ford, Los Angeles Public School System. Within those big companies, I primarily target and talk to the CFO. If you happen to know any financial services guys in big industries like that, I'd love to talk to them. And right now, my primary target and goal is I'm trying to reach these 5 people. And I would have the 5 names. I don't have it now because RonaStar is an older company. But if I was really doing this, I would know the name of the CFO of United Airlines. I would know the name of the CFO of Los Angeles Public Schools or Los Angeles. I would know the name of the title of the person I want in my target market. Right? So Eagle, you don't need to answer this, anybody else, but think about for a moment, what does RonaStar do? I help companies save money, and I'm trying to find CFOs. That's how I do it. It doesn't matter. I don't need to convince you how great my company or my market is. You're not my market. My market is a CFO. I need to know, do you know any CFOs that you can refer me to because you think what I do is cool? And what I want, or what I want you to get to, is what I call horizontal introductions. If I just told you, oh, I have software that helps companies save money, what does that mean? It's too broad. Oh, I help big companies. Well, what does big companies mean? Again, too broad. Like, you've got to sequence down in somebody's mind so they can help you. But by me saying airlines, United, financial officer, I want somebody who says, oh, I don't know the CFO at United, but I know the guy at American or JetBlue or Lufthansa or Air Cathay. They're not going to say, oh, I know the CFO of the guy that sells parts to the airlines on the corner. That's not my market. You want what's called a horizontal introduction. If you're going after big companies, you want big companies. If it's middle market, it's middle market. It doesn't matter. And this kind of system is able to be used for almost anything that you do. So what I need you to remember is, number one, what do you do that's cool? What are the industries? What are the companies? What's the title and what are the names? And this takes research. You can go out and research whatever you're doing. If I'm in sales, if I'm an attorney, if I'm trying to get access, I've taught this a lot at schools. Now I'm just going to give you a couple different examples of how this can be used. Within the marketing department at UCLA, I'm a guest lecturer at a lot of colleges. I love doing that with kids. And one of the big things for kids going to schools, they're trying to get a job. And I've helped them, and I basically say, if I was trying to get a job, I'm not going to go around and say, oh, I just graduated from UCLA, I have an international marketing degree. Who do you know that's hiring? No idea. Not my job to figure out who's hiring for you, but hey, maybe. So the BullsEye system says if I'm doing international marketing and I was a student coming out of college, I'm going to kind of make this up. I've done it enough times in class. I would say, oh, I just graduated from UCLA. I have an international marketing degree, but what I want to do is I want to help U.S.-based companies expand overseas. So I want to help companies get better at selling into international markets. That's what I want to do. So I want somebody to say, oh, that's kind of cool, right? But I've targeted industries and markets. I've targeted geographies like Asia. So all of the migration and movement into China and all the problems. I want to be in areas like Asia and Korea. I want to be in industries like financial services. And again, I could go financial services. I could go down the line. But if I want to be in financial services, I'd love to work at a company like Citicorp or Travelers or American Express or Deutsche. Pick the ones you want to work at. And I really think within those companies, the primary hiring person is, head of revenue or the head of this or the head of marketing. Do your own research. Not my job to figure out where you want to work. You need to come to me and say, here's what I did. It's cool. Here's the industry. Here's the companies. Here's the title of who I want to meet. Here's the kind of companies. Here's the 5 people. Do you know them? I'd love to have an introduction. And somebody's going to go, oh, I know the person at Citicorp. Or they'll go, I don't know Citicorp, but I know a guy at Bank of America or Wells Fargo. It's a horizontal introduction. So if I'm looking to expand my sales, if I'm looking to expand my market, if I'm an attorney, if I'm in real estate, if I was in real estate, I would not be a real estate agent. Somebody'd say, what do you do? I would say, I help cash buyers find their dream home. And somebody go, well, what does that mean? Well, I primarily work with cash buyers that are looking to buy $10 to $30 million properties. And I'm one of the best in the world. So if you happen to run across a guy that just sold his company in technology, a guy that's looking to move in I would figure out what my market is. So somebody would go, oh, I know a guy with $10 million as a cash buyer coming. Or the worst is they go, well, I don't know a guy, but one of my friends is a $3 million cash buyer. Would you work with him? You know what? I'd love to work with your friend at $3 million. But I just distinguish myself and isolate what I do. Not that I can't do all of it, but I want to be in a lane. If I'm in real estate, says, here's what I do. If I'm an attorney, if I'm a divorce attorney, right? I want to target, who do I want to target? I want to target a certain kind of individual, a certain kind of person. Maybe somebody, if I'm a transitional wealth manager, I want to target technology because technology creates more wealth quicker than other things. Or real estate. LA's big on real estate. Like, pick a lane, pick a target, but use this system, emotional value of what you do. Industry, title, company. Same thing for venture capital. I'm going to put this one up again as we're winding down on time. I get people all the time. They're like, oh, I'm raising money. What does that mean? In technology, people are always raising money. I've been raising money my whole life. Oh, well, I need an investor. Do you know any VCs? I know 1,000 of them. No, hundreds. But they all specialize. Which ones do you want? Oh, any of them. Well, they don't work that way. You might work that way that you'll take any of them. They don't. They have a lane. So it's kind of the same thing. Like, here, I'm going to hold this up. Oh, it spun around. Love the surface. What's the emotional value of what you do? What makes your company cool? Then within the venture capital industry, what are the 3 sectors? If you're doing enterprise software, then find the top, go research. Who are the top VCs for enterprise software? Who are the best 5 VC companies within that sector? Who are the top VCs that you want to partner with by name, and find people that can make those introductions. VCs are specialized. Angels are specialized. You need to help other people help you. Otherwise, you're just out there spinning in circles. What you do is irrelevant. What you need is important. That's the whole purpose of this technique. Figure out what you need, figure out who the people are, who the names are, and then build your structure of conversation where people can help you. They can't help you with what you need. They can only help you. They can't help you with what you do. They can only help you with what you need. All right, wrapping up. Thank you for joining me as always. Steve and me, the BullsEye Guy. I am coming to you live from the Groove Studios, downtown LA. Appreciate it. For more information, thebullseyeguy.com. And our episodes are up. The guys here are doing a great job. We're up on iTunes. We're up on YouTube. So follow us wherever you can. Again, Steve and me, thank you so much.